Hey everybody, Bennett for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. On a Friday, we get together and we have a look at the top 5, something normally to do with Blood Bowl. Now, this Friday is a little bit different. We're doing Top 5 Friday live, and the reason for that is normally I film a day ahead. And yesterday, we had our Gutter Bowl stream, because this is Top 5 Gutter Bowl tips, and I wanted to make sure that we'd actually played a full game of Gutter Bowl with the rulebook to actually make sure that what we know, we actually know. So if you didn't get a chance to join us on the live stream last night, do go back and watch the game. It's really good fun. We're going to hit up a top 5, but we'll also be taking questions, and we've got the book and the pitch and everything. So if you've got any questions about Gutter Bowl, please chuck them in the chat, because we can just have a bit of a chat and and answer some questions, hopefully. Kalutu, hi. T-Sticks, hi. Hey, everybody in chat. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so I guess onwards to top 5 Gutter Bowl tips. Now, we are going to start with an honourable mention, kind of a public disclaimer. It's really difficult doing this kind of stuff when it's already sold out. So Gutter Bowl is an expansion for Blood Bowl. You get a book and you get a pitch, and it is a ton of fun. But Games Workshop have sold out. Most kind of friendly local gaming shops have sold out as well. So it's really difficult to do something like this and kind of be like, hey, go and get it, go and play it. But the first thing I will say, and I think is the most important thing that you take away from this video, you don't really need the pitch. Okay, the rulebook you kind of do need, but we've already done one video explaining how the rules work, and the only thing missing from there are the kickoff events, which I'm sure you'll be able to find online without too much difficulty. Otherwise, basically everything else is good to go. And when it comes to the pitch, don't worry about missing out on a Sewer Bowl pitch. You can do that on the back of any 11s pitch. It's got the same footprint. It's 15 squares wide by 26 long, and the bits that are terrain you can draw on with a pen or cut out some card or 3D print or build something from scratch. So if you haven't been able to get hold of a copy of Gutter Bowl, you'll be fine, which I think is really important. Now, hopefully, with expansions like this that Games Workshop sell out of, they'll bring them back, so you will be able to get a copy if you want a copy. But if you haven't been able to get a copy online, don't worry too much. You don't really need it. It's great fun, and it's awesome if you can get it, and even better if your friendly local gaming shop can get it so you can support them. But if that's not the case, don't worry too much. You can make your own without a lot of work. Anyway, onwards to the top 5 for real. And the first one, the top 5 one, is drink potions responsibly. So if you watched our game, you would have seen that our competitors were very excited to use the magic potions, because magic potions are one of the few inducements that you can actually take in Gutter Bowl. And there's 2 different varieties. There's the 50k cheap ones, like as the value kind of potions, and then you've got the proper ones, the expensive ones. And the guys took 3 potions last night. Now, they are really good. They are really fun. Even the cheap ones are really useful because they can help bring back KO'd guys. The 100k ones are actually, some of them are brilliant. We saw last night a goblin got +1 movement and sprint for the whole game. Is it the whole game? The whole game. So the potions are fantastic, but you only get 750k to build your roster. So when I say drink potions responsibly, Trips took 200k of potions, and it didn't really give him as much as potentially 2 players and a reroll, because all rerolls are capped at 100k here. It's just straight up 100k for your team. So with a 750 budget, you can get a 7s team, an extra positional, and a reroll to make your team more kind of reliable. Depending on your format, if you're doing like a resurrection build where you can buy inducements as part of your starting team, or, you know, like I said, drink them responsibly, may be worth taking a reroll or a bench instead. If you are playing a Gutter Bowl league, I can see you being down, and actually being able to take a potion will be really good fun. So I'd say, as an inducement, For a game, potions are worth looking at. If you're building a roster, maybe extra linemen and a reroll might not be the worst thing to do. I want to just jump into chat really quick. T-Stick says, at least only down as temporarily unavailable, so not so bad. So fingers crossed they'll bring him back. We talked about this on the stream last night. Dungeon Bowl, I don't know if it actually sold out or whether they just brought it back and topped it up. So hopefully Gutter Bowl will be around because it is a really fun, different way to play. So it's really good fun. I'm sure you'll be able to pick up a copy. Ad says, hoping to get mine from my friendly local gaming store tomorrow. Bit nervous that they might not get them in. Yeah. Hey Ben, one tip: don't cut polystyrene pitch without letting the other half know first. Yeah, Tiff. Well, there's still polystyrene bits everywhere in the house, and I've tried hoovering. I've done everything. Yeah, you'll get in trouble for that. Gem Easton, if you were to watch an unboxing video review, and if you pause the video at appropriate points, and if you select the top available resolution option, you might be able to read the kickoff event charts. Gem, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I'm sure you'll be able to find them. But yeah, I think a league rule where everyone gets a free potion would be lots of fun. That I do approve of. Free potion or free wizard, you get to choose, and it's a good way to try out the kind of the new inducements without sacrificing what I think might be too much of your team. So yes, number 5. Drink potions responsibly. Number 4, the longest pitch ever. It's a standard 11s pitch, but you only got 7 players and you've only got 6 turns. And let me tell you, this pitch, it feels like such a long way. It's a standard kind of kickoff situation. So you've got 3 on the line of your 7, which means you've only got 4 in your backfield. Realistically, the ball's going to end up in the center of the backfield. That's going to be a good chunk of squares away. And it's only 6 or 7 squares longer than a 7s pitch, but it is an extra turn for most teams. So it can feel monstrously far, which was really interesting yesterday as we were playing through the game. Whoever received the ball had a ton of space to go. We're used to playing 7s. You know, you've watched us play 7s on the channel. If you haven't played it yourself, you get that kind of intermixing space in the middle of the pitch where you get the no man's land, and it means you've got 13 squares from the line of scrimmage to scoring. It's technically the same on this one. You just have only 4 guys to cover the entire 11s pitch, which is going to cost you 1 turn to wander and pick up the ball and potentially another turn to get back there. And the halves are only 6 turns. So you are kind of increasing the range to walk by about a turn, and you are losing 2 turns of clock. Now, they've got anti-stalling rules in there, which I think is excellent. Now, we didn't get a chance to use them on the channel last night, but they are brilliant. If you're stalling at the end of your turn, on a 2+ rolled by your opponent, you get zapped, basically, and go straight to injury. So stun, KO, casualty. So you're not going to be able to run down the clock if you're in a scoring position, which does keep the turns flowing. But if you are a team that is not like a movement 8 heavy or movement 9 heavy team, so Skaven, Lizards, that kind of stuff, it's a long way to go. Like we talked about whether dwarves would be good in this format. They're resilient, they've got good combat skills, they're not fast. Like movement 6 is the best they can do. It is a long way to go to score. 3 turns is with a motor on, and that's half of the that's a quarter of the game. It is a very long way to go. So beware when you are building your team and you are choosing your team, or when you are playing the game, you do not have any spare time to waste. It is a really interesting one. Are Skaven OP in this game as well? I don't think so. And there's a couple of the points that are coming up that are kind of going to exemplify why. T-Stick says, I'm used to only having 7 players by turn 8 and 11s anyway, so should be fine. That's true. Stalling rule is interesting. The stalling rule is excellent, I think. Now, while you know you may be used to playing down players, it's really interesting because you can see from the pitch, not only is it long, but there's stuff in the way. So it feels even longer because instead of just busting a hole and then kind of running over, you have to run like 3 squares north before you can cut back again. So that 13 squares is actually 16 squares because there's a massive market stall in the way. There's a big sewer in the way. You can cut the corner off, but you're still going to have to loop up 3 or 4 squares to get there. So even if it is a 13 square stretch from mid zone to end zone, you kind of, if they're gummed up in the middle, it's actually 14, 15, 16, 17 squares to loop up and around. So guard your wide zones, but like it's a long way to go if you need to wander about. Ad says that's my only worry. The pitch is too big and it'll be 0-0 all the time. I think it is going to be much more of an achievement to get a touchdown. And that feels appropriate because this is all like players that are just not good players. This is all supposed to be just drunk people playing Blood Bowl, and you wouldn't expect a lot of touchdowns. So sevens is the score fest. Sewer Bowl is a bit of a death fest. And yes, the longest pitch ever, number 4. Number 3, the floor is lava. The floor is the just most deadly, brutal thing in this game, and I absolutely love this rule. Now, I guess one of the big takeaways that we've got here is that originally there was this gut crunch feeling. There was this gut reaction by a lot of the community saying, oh, they're just rebranding Street Bowl and claiming it for their own. It's not Street Bowl, not at all. There's some similarities, but generally speaking, this doesn't feel like Street Bowl in any way, shape, or form. One thing that is exactly Street Bowl, though, is this rule here, which the floor is lava. So cobblestones, the ground here, it's astrogranite. It's the stadium special rule where armor breaks are at +1. And that is massive. That is a hilariously gigantic impact on the game. I know that mathematically speaking, that is not shocking, but it feels even worse than you would think. And it's only going to break the armor easier, but it is phenomenally different. You've got 7 players, you've got a line of scrimmage, and you've got a ground made of daggers. It is incredible how potent that combination of things can be, and I love it for 2 reasons. Thematically, yeah, cobblestone ground is hard. I get that. Actually, I think I come at it from a slightly different angle. This game is supposed to be played by not professional Blood Bowlers with not professional equipment. So I think this is actually a really clever way of making it like everybody is worse than a standard Blood Bowler by giving them 1 less armor. They're less resilient. There's hardly any rerolls in the game, so they're not doing great stuff. You got 0 to 5 positionals because there's not full availability. And basically, everyone's 1 less armor because they're not proper players. I know it's the ground doing it, but that's how it actually feels. That's how it comes across. And dude, it is absolutely murder. Love this. Really love this rule. It definitely makes the game feel dangerous. And that was one thing we really took away. And I think it says in one article or something like this that this is a brawl. This is just a death match. And if players survive, and you kind of read that and you're like, oh yes, Blood Bowl's dangerous if players survive. Dude, if players survive is a genuine thing. We played this game last night and we had like, what, 7, 8 removals? It was monstrous. Just want to check in here. Good way to put it, Ben. Thank you. Go for it, painting. Hit the like. Thanks, guys. The floor is the biggest MVP for sure, says Matthew Michaels. Yeah, definitely. The biggest impact on this ground is the one your players make when they fail a dodge, fail a go for it, fail a leap, jump over a barricade, it goes wrong, or just straight up get punched into the ground. It's phenomenal. The floor is dead before the game even starts. It sounds like the standard choice for an MVP. Is the floor rule effectively an indirect nerf for stab/chainsaw? I mean, technically, yeah. I mean, technically, that doesn't combo. But you get +3 to a chainsaw anyway. Stab, I like stab in this format at the moment where edge stuff tends to be a little bit, well, I don't know. Stab is risky. Stab is always risky. We need more stab in the game, I think. But it's easier to just punch somebody in the face and have them hit the ground for that extra +1. So yes, one tip here at number 3 is that the ground is legitimately dangerous. Number 2, let's go to the right screen. Big guys are fun. Now, that's kind of a bit of a meme. So what I mean by big guys are fun is that you've got 3 running lanes and a line of scrimmage. We played a lot of Dungeon Ball. You put a big guy in a corridor, and that includes strength 4 chubbies, right? If you've got Nurgle team, a Khorne team, Khorne in this format, wonderful. But it doesn't take much. You've only got 7 open squares. So if you've got 5 positionals, let's say a big guy and 4 strength 4 pieces, murder. If you're running Renegades or Tomb Kings or something where there's multiple big guys, 3 big guys, 1 in the middle, 1 in each wide zone. Who's getting through that? Like, no one's getting through that. And you can double up in the wide zones as well. So I know there's only 7 players, but you put a big guy left, a big guy right, a dude behind him, a dude behind him, and 3 on the line of scrimmage. That's your 7. Sure, the middle's open at that point, but then you put your other big guy on the line of scrimmage. So the reason big guys, I think, are a potential here is it's going to be impossible for your opponent to try and score without having to deal with them. That's going to just put your strength 4, 5, whatever, and your high armor in combat. And that's assuming you don't take advantage of the line of slaughter being back in this game. In 7s, you've got this space between you, so there's no free blocks. There's no, like, I'm just going to have a go with my guy. There's none of that. In this format, there is. And with the ground being murdery and Mighty Blow stacking on that armor, you know, we had a Rat Ogre last night. Mighty Blow +2, basically. Strength 5 Frenzy. He's throwing 4 block dice at most targets and then essentially has Mighty Blow +2. It is brutal. And I think that a team with Strength and Frenzy is going to do an absolutely wonderful job. So I know you're kind of thinking, well, Khorne are going to be amazing. Actually, they are. But anything with high strength and Mighty Blow. Ogres are going to be brilliant in this. How much is 5 ogres? 140 times 5. That's 700. How many runts can you get? How many do you need at that? 5 ogres, 500, 700, 745. 5 ogres, 3 nobblers in a dungeon, in a sewer. That's just filth. That's just outrageous. That's a ton of Mighty Blow. That is going to be on the channel. That is too much fun. I love that. But the point here, big hits are big wins in this game. The ground's going to combo, and because there's so many running lanes, your combat pieces are going to get a chance to shine. So your big hitters are in for this game. Effectively, everyone has -1 armor except against stab and chainsaw. That is very, very, very true. That's why you kind of... The excellent thing about this, it's a different format. There's a lot of different things going on, and it does play out very differently, which means we've got some good rosters to brew up. Anyway, number 2, big guys and the line of slaughter. Number 1, quantity is a quality of its own. This is the biggest takeaway from our game, without a shadow of a doubt. And I kind of alluded to it in every single element that we've talked about. You can take a potion and it's a lot of fun, but if you get the chance to turn that potion into 2 linemen, you really should do it. And this is a massive impact on what you'd think. If you're running a 7s game, you want the kind of shinies. This game turns up removal by adding the line of slaughter and then gives the ground magic powers to murder you at the same time. This game is battle. This is more blood than bowl by a massive factor. And it's just so different. The way this game plays out is more akin to a fantasy skirmish game than a fantasy sports game, which is weird. Like, I love a good combo score. I love that. And you can definitely do that in this format. But if you turn up to this format with a warband instead of a team, and that mentality of I need guys because my guys are legitimately going to die, you are better set than any other format. Street Bowl had a bit of that because it had the line of slaughter and it had the ground. So there was definitely those elements, and there was only 7 squares wide. The obstacles make it even more brutal, I think, because it gives you chance for more pushes, more surfing into walls, more surfing into sewers to kind of get you out of the game. It's like Blood Bowl is at a 0. You add 1. Well, Blood Bowl 7s is at a 0. You add 1 for the line of scrimmage because you get 3 blocks. You add 2 for the ground being murderous. And you add 3 because you've got things to bounce people into. So it just really turns it up. And that murder is phenomenal. A reroll is a wonderful thing. But I think in this format, anytime you want to buy a reroll, you've got to really consider whether or not you've already got 9 players on your roster. Because if you don't have 9 players on your roster, it becomes a real choice. I would never run a 7-man roster in this format. Because you've got 750k, you've got the opportunity to kind of chuck an extra guy on. Most linemen are going to be cheap enough for you to be able to take your 7s team plus an extra lineman plus a reroll and kind of be okay. But 8 is low, 7 is just bad, 8 is low, 9 is okay, 10 is fine. Like 10, you should feel comfortable. If you can get 10 guys in a reroll, you are winning. So this is where you get that extra element of what teams are going to do well. Well, obviously, high strength frenzy teams are going to have a wonderful time. They are going to kill themselves. Like I've sculled out many times with Khorne. We've seen it on the channel. They are just as susceptible to the ground as anybody else. But you are going to be able to kind of choose the dice. And most of the time, you should be able to stack your frenzy blocks well. But the cheaper teams are going to have a lot of fun here too. I actually think Snotlings are going to be a lot of fun in this format because you get swarming. There is no cap. It is standard 16-man roster. So you get to bring 16 Snotlings to a 7-man game, make the most of swarming. Because of the special rules where there are no referees, it means that if you do take a pump wagon or a little tiny bomberman, they stay on at the end of a drive on 4+, and there's not very many drives in this game. There's maybe 1 extra drive a game, so you're looking at maybe 3 or 4 drives maximum. So actually, you don't need to worry too much about that, and you've got the bench to be able to leave it off. But you want all your stuff on because you want to do the murdery stuff. And when it comes to Snotlings, they've got the numbers to just clog up the ground, slow your opponent down. If you drop somebody, old dirty player pump wagons are going to have a great time. And you've got some bombers. And I think every roster is viable in this format. But you have to bring linemen. You have to prioritize having linemen. Because the ground comboed with 3 blocks, you are going to be down. I would take my standard 7 Skaven roster and it would fall apart. I'd be down to 4 players, which in 7s is achievable. But in this format, with the big pitch at the end and 3 blocks, it is going to snowball into a very much one-sided match. A couple of bits in chat. A backup Ben is definitely really important with how fast you go through, guys. Yeah. How to chain together Gutter Bowl, Dungeon Bowl 7s and regular Blood Bowl. What's the escalation framework? I love that idea. Ad says I was going to get rid of my ogres as I find them too hard. Maybe not now. No. You want 5 ogres in this format. Now, good shout here from Jem. Big guys are fun, but Bonehead loses tackle zones, which means ogres may just get run past. Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. But it's kind of that balancing factor of, yes, I've got that, but also I've got 5 mighty blow pieces at strength 5 in this format where the ground is as strong as an ogre. You always have a risk with a big guy. Like, it's always risky. That's a 2+ risk that I think I'm willing to pay most of the time. Now, back on that escalation point, it's really interesting. You can kind of link together Street Bowl into 7s, into Blood Bowl, into Dungeon Bowl, and there's a lot of fun stuff to do with that. But my number 1 takeaway is that definitely you need extra guys. All right, so Gutter Bowl is out. It is sold out, which is a bit of a shame because actually I think you should give it a go because it's very different. It feels very different. It is much more combat-y than combo-y, which I think your mileage may vary. Most teams, have got the opportunity to bring up a build that hurts, that can fight, that can brawl. You're coming to a brawl in this game, and that's okay. Like, This is the format where a skink is every now and again going to do skink things and win the game. But most of the time, that skink is just going to get punched into the ground and die immediately, and then your Sauruses are going to be left wandering around trying not to get thrown into a sewer. I like it. It's a pretty great equalizer. There's a couple of things that I think you hurt some teams in formats like this. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a time where halflings are not the best. Stunty's cool, but they are going to just explode. Like, as soon as an opponent picks up a block dice, one of your models will just fall apart. That is just how it's going to be. You do get the advantage of putting 2 trees on the line, but with halflings, and I guess with halflings, you only need 600k to build your team. Then you spend the other 400k in stand 11s on actual players, right? You bring Griff because you don't like friends. That's not going to happen in Gutter Bowl. So if you bring halflings, you're going to be way punching up, and you need to bring enough halflings that you're kind of playing lemmings. But I think that's probably just more of a risk of the halfling roster being a little bit tough on its own. Goblins will be a great fun. Goblins will be a great amount of fun. They're cheap enough so that you can have enough players. The toys are cheap enough so you can bring it, and you've got that extra 4+ meaning they're staying on. Underworld in this format might be the most dangerous. They get the Rat Ogre or the Troll. You get a bunch of Strength 3 guys with the Skaven. You get 5 positionals, and you've got those dodgy goblins. So I think Underworld are pretty good, but again, if they get caught flat-footed, they're going to get murdered. You've got to think about speed. Again, that's going to massively hurt halflings. I think halflings are probably the worst placed team in the game for this. I don't think there's a worse one. Someone said Tomb Kings yesterday on the stream. They were like, is that, Cries in Tomb King, I think was the comment. And that's not unfair. But with 5 positionals, that's 4 Tomb Guardians and one of your Sure Hands lads and like 5 skeletons and maybe a reroll. You can get a lot of stuff for Tomb Kings, and you can play the attrition game. I think defending in this format with a heavy hitting team is awesome. You should kick. Just kick away and set up in good defense. Sure, your opponent's going to have the first shot, but you are going to have the second, third, and fourth. And it's kind of like, you can put chaff on the line if you've built your roster with enough spares. Your heavy hitters are there in defense, and your opponent just has to choose an angle. You can then envelop them and just pound them to dirt. And then the second half, you do that thing where you just make the slow cruise across the pitch. This is a really interesting and really different way of playing Blood Bowl. It is definitely worth a shot. Like I said, you can make your own pitch with not a lot of effort at all. Literally a bit of paper or a marker pen. And you can just use the back of your board, colour in the right bits. And like someone said, I'm sure you'll be able to find the kickoff table somewhere online. So yes, I just want to jump into chat, see if there's any more questions. Otherwise, I have got to go to the parcel box because we've got some orders going out today. And I'm hoping that some of you out there will get your parcel tomorrow morning. A bunch of halflings, potions, and a blessed dice from Nuffle. There's some really good potions. +2 strength from Frenzy and stuff. There's some really good stuff. I don't know if it's good as just a whole bunch of linemen. And I really want to run a giant in this format, as I've just seen mine there. I don't know how you would justify a giant in a sewer, but in Street Bowl, absolutely. Right, guys, thank you very much for joining. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking.